Hello my dear friends and welcome to my channel. Don't forget to make yourself a cup of hot tea or coffee if you want, because today we have very interesting stories, and one of them is a story about a woman who demanded deaf people kicked out of cafe cause they didn't speak. Please subscribe if you haven't and I hope you'll enjoy it. So, a little background. I do archery and, having done so for almost 3 years now, have become reasonably good, being on one occasion asked to shoot for my county. I live in the UK. I was at another club's competition shoot and quite quickly I noticed that there aren't many other kids my age, 15. To be exact, there were 2 girls I knew and disliked. They were the popular sort of girls who look down on people who didn't have the latest phone or whatever, and one guy, SK, for show-off kid. So I started talking to him whilst I set up my recurve bow and find out he's on the target next to mine. Cool. He seems a little showy-offy, but I didn't make a big deal out of it. His mum, has come with him, mine has not as I have a younger brother and sister, and she and my dad were trying to put some flooring down in the dining room, so they dropped me off and went home. No biggie, honestly I prefer to shoot more or less on my own. I speak to his mum a little, but the shoot begins, and I have to go up for my ciders. Around 2 hours later, we are nearing the end of the shoot. It has gone really well for me, and I look set on getting my personal best. The targets are numbered 1 to 10, with N being the inner gold and 1 being the outer wide on a conventional target. We shoot in ends of 3 arrows, 20 ends in total. This is called a Portsmouth shoot. Meanwhile, SK has not been doing so well, and as I have kept quiet about my score, he seems to assume he is doing better. After the final end, the scores are drawn. Categories are split into male and female adult and male and female junior. He is called up for second place, with 362 points. Absolutely not a bad score, but I can tell he is fuming. I am then called up for first place. My score is 517. I was very happy with this score. Scores are out of 600. As I walk up, most people are clapping, but out of the blue I hear someone booing. Loudly and obnoxiously. Looking around, I see EM on her feet, leaning towards me, booing. I decide to let it go, collect my award, and head back. After the ceremony finishes, I am packing up my gear, and a bony hand snatches up the medal from next to me. Shocked I look up, and what do you know, EM is walking away with it. I catch up to her, making sure my stuff is safe. Excuse me miss, I think you have something of mine. I point to the medal in her hand. Excuse me? My medal miss. I'm sorry, but I think my son deserves this more than you do. He tried really hard today, and I'm sure you wouldn't mind. Now, I am not a strong guy. But I am 5'11", so I can make myself seem so. I'm sure he did miss. So did I, and that's why I won it. Could you please give it back? Bear in mind I have been polite and done nothing wrong at this point. How dare you speak to me like that? You should have more respect for your elders. I should take this just for that. She turns and stalks off. I am shocked and don't even move for a full 10 seconds. I then head to the competitions officer and explain what has happened. He promises to sort it out and says I should carry on putting my gear away. Mere minutes later I hear an unearthly amount of screeching. Finishing putting my stuff away, I look up just in time to see EM and a bawling SK, seriously dude. Being led from the hall. CO come back and hands me the medal, explaining that EM had started saying I was lying and had stolen it from SK. Despite that everyone had seen the awards presentation. Realizing she was screwed, as someone came to lead her out, she threw it on the ground, grabbed her hellspin and left. How dare you get an amazing score and get first place? Don't you know that SK is a much better archer and deserves the first place medal, even though he didn't get first? Holy crap, how are these idiots allowed to breed? B. Chris. My husband. Lisa. Chris's mum, my mother-in-law. Rory. Chris's dad, my father-in-law. Kelly. My mum and the EM, Tom. My brother and the ED, Sean. My nephew. Clarification. Kelly is mine and Tom's mum, Sean's grandmother. Tom and his wife, who isn't relevant to this story, are Sean's parents. This is intergenerational entitlement. So 2 years ago I got pregnant for the first time. Chris and I told our families and Rory was overjoyed at the idea of a grandchild and, at Lisa's suggestion, gave me and Chris a check for £1,000. He said this was to pay for a nursery and the rest should be kept safe until the baby was 18. Shortly after this, when I was at about 12 weeks, I had a miscarriage. We tried to give Rory his money back, but he asked if we were ever going to try again. We said someday, but not anytime soon. Rory said to put the money in a savings account and add to it so when we do have a baby, we have the money for it. Chris and I agreed, and after that we made the account, deposited the check, and tried to put in about £10 per week. As it's been 2 years of regular topping up, the account currently has around £2,500 in it. We've missed a week here and there, but we've never taken money out of it. Chris and I have both been to therapy and agreed to try again. I am currently 4 months pregnant. We waited this time until we were out of the danger zone, a period where miscarriage rates are higher, before we invited our families to our place and told them over lunch. Everyone seemed really happy for us, except my brother Tom. I pulled Tom to one side and asked why the long face, and he told me that he knew about the baby fund and had been intending to ask me for it. In the conversation after that, Tom said Sean is going to uni in a couple of years, he's 16 now, and Tom doesn't feel that maintenance grants, up to approximately £7,500 a year, will be enough for Sean to live comfortably. I said that Sean could get a job, and Tom said that he doesn't want Sean working through A-levels, in case it affects his grades. Tom also said that he and his wife, who are both mid-30s, had Sean at the time when they would have gone to university so they couldn't go, and because of this it's important to them that Sean goes. He figured as me and Chris are on £10 an hour and Tom and his wife are on £9 an hour, this means that we automatically have money to burn. I replied that the baby fund was, shockingly enough, for my baby. Tom then said, I figured since you know the last time, then this one isn't a done deal yet. I told him no. Tom then immediately told Kelly how I was refusing to give him the baby fund, and now both Tom and Kelly are mad at me because Sean needs the money and we're family. Sean did not even know Tom was asking me for the money or that the money existed. To this day the only people to ever contribute to the baby fund are Rory with his starter money and me and Chris with our £10 a week in bonuses. We don't even consider that money to be ours anymore, and even when Chris and I were in dire straits and really could have done with some of the money in the fund, we still didn't touch it because as far as we're concerned that's our baby's money. Turns out Lisa told Kelly about the existence of the baby fund years ago, as Kelly makes quite a bit of money, so Lisa thought Kelly might want to contribute to the fund. Tom complained to Kelly about not having enough money, so Kelly told Tom about the baby fund and said what's the harm in asking. Tom and his wife have had 16 years to save up. Me and Chris have never taken a holiday, and they go on 2 per year, and then when they realized they had no savings left, they decided to try and take the money that the entire family knows is for mine and Chris's baby, while telling me that there's still a chance I'll miscarry since I've already miscarried once. Also, they have a daughter who's about 10, so like if I give my current baby fund to Sean and then start rebuilding, there's no way that 8 years from now they won't ask for my new fund for the daughter. Neither kid is entitled, and they could both really do with an out to get away from their crazy entitled parents, but if it weren't for them, then we wouldn't even be on speaking terms with Tom right now. Clarification. Tom has no relation to Rory whatsoever, neither does Sean. Also, Sean didn't know and has apologized on behalf of Tom and Kelly, and has said he's tried to save up before now, but Tom has always found it and put it in the holiday fund. I'm so sorry you're related to these jerks. Your mother and father-in-law sound like good people though, so at least there's that. Background. I'm severely hard of hearing, but consider myself deaf. When your hearing is that shot, you might as well be. I also operate a very small, local deaf meetup group in my local area, which includes a hearing person, one of my roommates, who just seems to enjoy hanging out with us, and we're fine with that. When with a group, I don't wear my hearing aids as that roommate is usually fine with handling things if and when hearing is needed. He's a trooper. At this particular meetup which happened this morning at Shoney's for their breakfast, we came across an entitled parent. A story. Everyone was seated, casually nomming their favorite breakfast items from the breakfast bar at Shoney's, everyone signing and giggling back and forth with one another and enjoying our time together. But we did notice a kid that was nearby bugging my roommate about something. I wouldn't know what's being said until after we arrived home after the meetup and will include the conversational bits where relevant. Why aren't any of you talking? I can talk, they are deaf and can't hear speech, so we use sign language to talk. That's cool. Kid runs off and roommate didn't think anything more of it. It's not uncommon for someone to ask about sign language here or there or ask us how to say something or get advice on where they can learn the language. Sounds like nothing spectacular so far, I know, but it wasn't until we were ending our little meetup and start saying our goodbyes when the kid's mother approaches our table. Again, the deafies are just thinking yet another person with a sign language question, the Harry can handle it. Apparently the kid's mom was so offended that we weren't speaking vocally that she intended to make her stupid opinion known. You need to stop doing the hand signal stuff and speak English, it's very rude. I'm sorry, what? These guys are deaf, so. I don't care if they're deaf, they can speak English like everyone else in America. No, they can't, literally 2 of these people were born completely deaf, they don't know what English even remotely sounds like. It's not my fault they're dumb, they should still speak English, and you too, stop messing about with your hands, it's very rude. It's very rude to insist people with a disability to cater to your sensibilities, and honestly I wish I were deaf myself, so I wouldn't have to hear the screeching of a heartless witch with less than 2 brain cells to rub together. You can't speak like that around children. She ends up huffing and running off, at this point though she's gotten the attention of everyone at our meetup. We all were thinking that was the end of it, and the roommate signed to us telling us, crazy lady thinks we're throwing gang signs and other stupid stuff, everything's fine. Well, turns out EM ended up getting the manager demanding we be kicked out. So enter manager stage left. Manager arrives at the table with EM and the poor kid in tow, EM having looking smug like she just accomplished something huge. Manager, I've got a complaint that your entire party has been rude and cussing. The manager notices sign language being used and asks the entitled mother, ma'am, do you know what they're saying? No, not at all, they're not speaking English, which is very rude. We're in America and in America we speak English. Roommate swears this is what she said, and since we do live in the sticks I wouldn't put it past that someone would say something like this. Manager, ma'am, we can't kick people out for not speaking English. But they're insulting me and my kid, just look at them. At this point it's worth noting that when we're discussing something or someone, if the object of discussion is available they're pointed at. At no point in our discussion did we point at the entitled mother nor her kid. What we were talking about was various subjects from cats to the gal we got recently invited from Walmart, talking about wanting to get a fish tank and a small fighter beta and other places they'd like to go for the next meetup. So nothing involving the entitled parent nor her kid. Actually, points to one of us, she's talking about getting a fish tank and getting a beta fish, points to me, he's getting information on where the next meetup might take place, points to the black guy, he's talking about a kitten he recently adopted, points the entitled mother, and she's being rude, insisting deaf people need to stop using sign language to accommodate her stupid sensibilities. The manager surprisingly signs to the group asking if we found everything to our liking. We all practically say yes to some degree. Yes, okay, etc. different signs. The manager proceeds to inform the entitled mother that she'll need to leave us alone, or he will have to ask her to leave. She apparently continued to complain about how we continue to sign after all this, and was asked to leave. She did and apparently screamed how she's never coming back. The manager gave us 10% off our bills, except the roommate who dealt with the brunt of it, who got his meal free. Ironically, I assume the group was conversing in American Sign Language, which is technically more American than English, a language from a foreign country. Context. So my mom has a daycare that she runs in our house, and there's this lady that used to bring her 5 kids, 2 5-year-old, 1 10-year-old, a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old brat, to daycare, usually just 2 or 3 at a time, and about 1.5 years ago, I was 13 going to be 14 at the time, and now I'm 15 so yeah that's about right, my dog had babies, 4 puppies 3 boys 1 girl to be exacted. And the next day the mother decided to all 5 of her kids with her, and have a chit chat with my mom for a few minutes. Now my mother was already stressed with the 4 puppies, now she has to deal with 4 kids and a mother who doesn't know when to leave, so now since you know the story here is what had happened. Your cast. E.M. Entitled parent. D. Brat. M. My mom. E. The all-powerful scrumpet boy, it's me guy, it's me. Your story. My mom was cooking a meal after we had a long day of taking care of kids and puppies, when you know who knocks on our door. OM what are you doing her? I wanted to come by and say hello. Children start running in and immediately start making a mess. I see you brought the whole cast. Yep, I decided to bring all of them since I could leave them home with husband's name and you babysit anyway, so I thought you wouldn't mind. I guess it's fine. My mom and sit and talk while the kids are running around the house. Meanwhile I am with my dog watching those puppies like a hawk when B asked me a question that I had underestimated the power of. Can I hold one of the puppies? Sorry B, the puppies have to be with their mom right now. Aw, but it just for a second. I'm sorry, but the puppies have to be with their mom. B then crosses his arms and go to his mom. Now this might be my first post, but this is not my first interaction with entitled parents, and his mom just looks at me with nice smile and says, "Can you please let B hold one of the puppies, he is good with dogs." I'm sorry but the puppies were only born yesterday and they need to be with their mom. Oh come on, they'll be fine. My son is right, you can't touch the babies when they've just been born. Oh, but your son is touching them. She then looks at my mom like she caught her lying about something. But I'm wearing gloves and not removing them from the cage, just helping my dog feed them. Just so you can know, I was moving the babies to the dog's breast whenever they couldn't find it and they were in a cage because that was the safest place for them to be, plus my dog gave birth in it, so. Well, just give him a pair of gloves. I'm sorry but your son can't pick up the puppies. The then glares at me and start talking to my mom again, while B is standing next to her angry. As my mom was talking, was half listening and looked like she was thinking. When my mom went to the kitchen to get back to the food she was cooking, and makes a grin and whispers to B, and he looks really happy, so I get suspicious. I now have my guard on the puppies at 110% when B walked past the cage about 5 times. Then when my mom calls me to the kitchen, I walk to the kitchen keeping an eye on B. When I get in the kitchen, my mom passes me some food and I immediately put my food down as I hear quiet whimpering and run to the cage. I then see B with one of the puppies in his hand and my dog looking at him confused. I said not to pick up the puppies, please put it back. No. Just let him. I said for your son not to touch the puppies. Are you saying my son can't be gentle with some damn puppies? Meanwhile he's flying the puppies around like a toy plane. When I decide to go get the puppy from him, as I go to grab it, he throws it at the cage and it screams in pain. What the hell are you doing, you little crap? B then tries to stomp on the puppy that on the floor when I run to smack him, but my dog beats me to it by biting him very hard, cutting through his skin. As B starts screeching, my dog pick up the puppy and helps it stop crying. Your rabbit dog just bit my son. My dog only bit your son because he threw it at the cage. Who care, it was just born, if it dies who care. Now that got me really pissed. Me, my mom, and the dog would care. Now get thee out of our house, you witch. How dare you call me a witch? Control your child now. My mom was busy checking if the puppy was okay. The puppy was perfectly fine, if you're wondering. I am so sorry, son, say that you're sorry and go to your room. Now you might be thinking that my mom went crazy, that she didn't see what happened, but by just looking at her, I knew what was going to happen. Well, not the exacted plan, but close enough. I went down the hallway and peeked around the corner and saw my mom fixing up B's cut when she brings up all the money owes us from bringing her kids here today and all the freebies that my mom gave her, and it turned out she owed us about $5,000. The went crazy, but it quickly stops when my mom gave her such a look that it could kill gods. Then reluctantly took out her checkbook and wrote the check for $5,000, and when she was leaving, my mom told her that if she comes near her, me, or her dog again, she would beat her butt so bad that she'd be sore for years, and that it goes double if the check bounced. The then left in a huff with her kids and said how she would sue us for assault of a minor and animal abuse, and I guess she either forgot or was just bluffing because she never came back. Not expecting a mother animal to protect her babies. What idiots. The kid deserved to get bit. And that got what she deserved as well. Well guys, that's it for today. If you end up enjoying this video, please consider subscribing, and if you missed the last episode on the channel, I'm gonna link it right here. The story is about a woman who became crazy and called the police when OP colored her grandchild's hair. Check this out if you haven't, and I'll see you in my next video.